Hey, I'm Matt with Let's Talk Music. I'm here with Paul and Ryan of Defiant. How we doing, fellas?
Good, good. How you doing?
Doing great, man. I'm gonna tell you, it was a good day at work. Come home, the wife cracked me a beer, had a plate made for me, and then I get to talk to musicians. Don't get no better than that.
That is a
Kind
good.
of like heaven, right?
Yeah, well, that's why I put a ring on it because
Mm.
she loves me. So, fellas, I we'll get started with Ignite the Sky, that new single out. Badass jam. And the video I love because you take some like old school scenery and then you mix some cartoons in with it. And yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it all blended really well together too.
the
So
the idea was to kind of because Al, our singer, wrote the song from the aspect of like the atomic nuclear bomb craze and Cold War era. So to get a lot of that old footage from that kind of really blended in perfect, and it was all free, royalty free video, so you can't argue with that.
yeah, that's a big thing these days. I shit you not. Have you ever heard of CD Baby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking to a musician and he's saying, "Yeah, man, you can play my new video in the song or in the interview, or you can, play part of our song at the beginning or whatever." And I did so and got a copyright claim. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm getting permission from the freaking artist, but yet, and when I looked it up, who it was from, CD Baby.
we
So
get copyright claims on our own music.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I like your
Yeah.
back, man.
Social media doesn't let us post our own stuff.
Who is it?
Social media,
Yeah.
they flagged us for posting our own stuff.
Well, man, I'm actually thinking about going to school to learn how to write code, and if I can, I'm going to create a platform for independent artists and smaller artists. I mean, I know you guys are with Curtain Call Records, but it's like I want something where artists can send MP3s, MP4s, whatever to this platform, and it gets heard.
Right.
Because I mean, all I can do right now is put a link to your newest video and put a link to your Spotify. So, it depends on how many people click on the interview to see whether or not, they're going to hear it. But
Right.
you guys are definitely worth hearing, man. I mean, I freaking love the song. And that's what I was saying. I was like, I got something to say to Paul. The drumming in that was fucking awesome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
I mean, especially right when it goes into the chorus, the just a brrr, I was like, oh, that is sweet, and of course I have my beats on, so it was a lot better bass and everything than being on the phone. But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Not a problem. And
Yeah.
you guys really did a great job on the entire song. I mean, everything fits so freaking well. The
Yeah.
lyrics, the drumming, the guitars, everything just meshes.
The funny thing about the song is it's our newest song, but also one of our oldest songs from riff standpoint, from some song structure. But it's been kicking around in some form or another since 2018. I had written like placeholder lyrics when I wrote the riff that I never really liked, and so we kind of shelved it for a long time. And then when we were coming into the writing process for this next EP that's gonna end up, this is the lead single off of it. We revisited it. I had Al completely rewrite the lyrics from the ground up for the most part. I think there's one line that he preserved, but and then on top of it, we kind of stepped our game up and we used new producers on this EP, Atrium Audio, and they've done like August Burns Red and From Ashes to New and Eternal Frequency and a lot of bands out of that have come out of Pennsylvania and kind of blown up on the national scene on some level. And so it was a step up in production, producers, studio for us. I think we were all a little nervous going into it, but going back to what you said, Paul absolutely destroyed the drums, and Grant and Carson made them sound massive. And so we couldn't be happier with finally how this song turned out.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, the mixing and the mastering is freaking it's right there, dude. It hits. You know, I mean, you don't it you can tell when it's a bad mixing, bad mastering, you know, and you know, I've talked to a few bands like, well, you know, this song was done by this dude and he wasn't that great, so we moved to these guys and we're so happy with them. And I mean, you know, the finished product is what matters. I mean, because you know, once you put it out there, it's out there, whether you're happy with it at the time or not, you know, then you
Right.
listen to it and you're like, wow, that sounds kind of shitty. Or, you know, damn, that's what we wanted, you know? So
Yeah.
I know for me, every time we go into the studio, like they always ask, like, what kind of sound are you looking for? And cliche as it is, I always reference like, give me Black Album drums, right? Close to that. Because still for me, like that's like one of the hardest hitting, powerful drum sounds, you know. And I really think these guys, you know, Carson and Grant, for me, it's not the exact sound, but they did. They nailed it, and they nailed the mix. I personally cannot be happier with this EP.
oh yeah. I mean, that's what matters, you know. I mean, you guys are, you know, you're four dudes that are coming together and creating art. And you're putting your art out there for everybody to see. And whether they like it or not, I mean, it does matter. But the most important thing is that, you know, you guys are happy with it. You know, I
For
mean, that's your vision, your you know, heart and soul, everything that you've been working for that's coming out into the EP or into, you know, an LP or a live show or whatever. So I mean, you know, it's first and foremost, it matters how you guys feel. And, you know, the fact that you couldn't be happier with it is, you know, what it's all about.
I'm
Yeah.
actually happy we kept this song because a certain somebody at one point I remember was like, "I've had enough of this song. We're scratching it. We're done with it." And I was like, "No, we got to keep it. Like, there's something here." So we finally, you know, as he had mentioned earlier, we got it arranged and distributed the way that it should be, I think.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I mean, are you a big contributor in the writing process?
I'm Joe, by the way. I don't the screen may say something else. I don't know what that is, but
Says Ryan, I am so sorry, dude.
good. It's a
See,
confusing world I live in. Don't worry. It's
Joe Defiant. Holy shit. Okay,
like,
see, I see it in the press release now, finally at the bottom.
that's my bad. I logged into the wrong Zoom. That's my professional name. You know what I mean? Like we got a stage name. Let's just be
Gotcha.
honest. The cat's out of the bag, so we.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, the writing process has been fairly typical for our band in that somebody, myself, Al, um, Paul, our bassist, starts with some sort of a little riff, and then Paul just starts beating his drums to it, and the rest of us try to add some parts to it. So it's a organic writing process. Every now and then, sometimes a song will come in completely finished by Al because you know, being the vocalist and writing, we have him write all the lyrics, so he plays guitar as well.
Right.
So he brought full songs into the band. I've brought full songs from a musical standpoint. Just I always, in my opinion, the man singing the words should be the one writing it because you know it's hard to, I think, sing impassioned words that somebody else wrote. Unless, I mean, a cover song's one thing, but like it's important, in my opinion, for Al to write the lyrics so he gets his message out there. And I think we have veto power at times if we just think it's a little crossing a line, but we've never really exercised that to any high degree. So that it's a really collaborative process between all four of us when we get in the rehearsal room. We're old school. We still, you know, lug around big amps and full drum kits, and we don't use the modelers. And so, like, we get in a room together and just make loud noise, and something comes out of it.
And I think once like the basic structure or idea is brought into the room, at that point, collectively, the four of us work on the general arrangement then. Because there's always a structure that comes in, whether Joe or Al puts it together or Paul B puts it together. But then there's always fine tuning. And I think like once we start learning how the bass is going to fit in with that riff and where the kick drums and, you know, how the vocals are going to fall. I think we all collaboratively arrange it once the structure's, you know, in place.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's one of the questions that I always ask. I mean, you know, I'm not a professional interviewer. I just I love music, and when I get to hear new music, I'm like, shit, I want to talk to these people. And you know, it's more of like I kind of just randomly come up with things as I'm talking with you based on the press release, based on the music that you've made. But it's more of the one question I always ask is, you know, your writing process, because I mean, that's when people are watching it, that's kind of important to them. They're like, you know, I mean, obviously, Ignite the Sky is self explanatory. I mean, if you don't get it by the song and the video, then wow. But you know, the writing process is, you know, is always interesting to me because I remember it as a teenager, you know, with cassette tapes. I've brought this up many times, you know, taking the cassette out, putting it in my, you know, cassette player, hit and play, and then opening up the jacket and reading, you know, the producers and who wrote what and this and that. And
Yeah.
you know, so it's always been interesting to me who is, you know, the creator. And when you got, you know, certain bands, it's like, you know, one or two people created most of the album, or, you know, the whole band got in with it. That's what I want to know. You know, so I mean, and what you just said was a great explanation of, you know, how your band works, the actual structure of your band. And that's you know, I feel like that's important just simply because it checks egos too. You know what I mean? And egos have been a thing for decades that have destroyed bands, and I think you guys have a great band, and the fact that y'all work together like you do, you know, that's important. I mean, it's you really can't be like, oh well, I'm the singer, I'm the head guy, or you know, I started the band. You know, it's a collaboration between four people expressing their art.
For
We've been
sure.
we've been lucky in that our line has been stable since with the same four guys since the end of 2018. Paul was the last to join this fall, uh, and in November 2018, roughly. And so now we've had close to 5 years of consistency together. And we are the band that gets in the room. We try to get in the room together once a week, once every other week. We're not a over the internet type writing band. We like to be in this together. We get along. I'm not going to say we haven't had disagreements in the rehearsal space, but it's never gone to the point of somebody blowing up and walking out. Like
Yeah.
it, you know, we get a little. We want to defend our position on certain aspects at times, but it always ends up producing something good in the end, and not. It's never gone negative. So we're lucky in that we actually like each other and we're friends, not just in a band together.
Right. And I mean, it's not, I mean, especially like when you go out on tour together, you know, I mean, it's not just about being friends, it's like a family. You know, you guys are in this, you know, whatever you travel in, a van, a RV, a bus, whatever, uh, for hours on end, and you're playing on stage, and you know, you're doing your meet and greets afterwards, selling your merch. I mean, just it's you're together the entire time. It's like you really can't escape each other, and I feel like that's um where it really comes in, that it tests the strength of your band. You know, especially if you're on a long tour.
Yeah, we've never done a really long one yet, so we'll have to, jury's still out on that one once we start. But yeah, we spent some long weekends and nights together, and probably seen more of each other than we thought we'd see. But we're still here, so
So you said you're excuse me, you're gonna be playing Youngstown here shortly.
there.
What else is involved in that one? I mean, are you guys, is that
We're looking. Our booking agent is looking at the weekend. It's like that last weekend of June going into July, right before the 4th of July, to get us into West Side Bowl in Youngstown, Ohio. I don't know the other acts that would be on the bill yet. And then string dates in the Midwest around that, whether it's Pittsburgh or going towards Michigan. But so, like a 4 or 5 day run centered around that Youngstown, Ohio. I guess this West Side Bowls are pretty cool. Even though, yeah, we talked about that. We won't mention that now. But
yeah.
well, yeah, it's supposed to be a really cool venue inside a bowling alley, and they put on rock shows, and so that's the plan. Nothing's been formally signed, sealed, and delivered yet, but that's the talks right now, to get us out of our area next. There's a lot of things in the works for the rest of the year, but until I see it confirmed and announced on Facebook or something, I don't hold too much concrete to it. So,
Who's your booking agent?
we well, through Curtain Call Records, they hooked us up with Jackie Lane and TJ Olson, and they work together. And Jackie's been around the business for a while, and she's got a lot of good connections at venues. And then TJ kind of has that punk side of it. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes you listen to the song. We're not the metalcore that's kind of big really right now.
Right.
We're not all the way like punk, but we kind of have elements of both punk, metal, hard rock. So we can swing both ways on bills at times as to where we fit in. So, but TJ's really big in the kind of punk hard rock scene. So he's kind of helping Jackie out and trying to get us out there beyond Pennsylvania a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just curious because I know a lot of bands that I've talked to use TKO booking.
Oh yeah, well that's the dream to get with TKO eventually. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
on some of the bigger tours and festivals. That would be the next step in the evolution of Defiant. Yeah.
So if you're listening,
Hey, I tell you what, tell your girl Jackie to check out the King of Clubs here in Columbus.
Your club's okay.
It's a great venue. I mean, and the lead singer, or not the lead singer, but the guy that owns it was the lead singer for X Factor 1. So he knows what it's like to be, you know, up and coming, and like he books everything. Like I'd say it's probably once a month or maybe even twice a month that we'll have like a big local showcase. So,
Okay.
to get those guys out there. And then like he's had bands like Static X and that whole Rise of the Machine tour he had there. He's had some pretty big names, but for the most part, I mean, they're much just, your average bands that have been around for a while or up and coming. And it's a great venue. Um, I think it holds about 1,500 people.
Wow.
It's in the north end of Columbus, and yeah, I mean, it's a cool place, dude. And I mean, I absolutely love seeing shows there. I mean, the only
Oh,
other place that I can think of, the King of Clubs.
King of clubs. Okay.
Yep, I'll send Shauna the information, or whenever I send your interview to you through via Facebook, I'll send that link with it.
Awesome. That'd be great.
But yeah, man, it's a great place to see a show. The only other place, I mean, there's two other places in downtown Columbus that I like is the Newport Music Hall, which is formerly the Columbus Algora, and Kimba Live, which is Promo West. It's their big arena.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I mean,
No.
because I don't know if you guys know it, Columbus is a big rock town.
Yeah. I mean, it's a college town, right? It's Ohio State.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, college town. So
We don't even pay attention to them. They're all into the hip hop and this and that. I mean, Columbus itself, though, dude, I shit you not, is a metal town. I mean, there's been quite a few. I mean, look at Beartooth. They're from here. Um, just it's rock and roll is a part of. I know it's big in Cleveland, but you know it's a part of Columbus, dude. I mean, fuck, Joe Walsh was arrested here, so was freaking Ted Nugent. I mean, come on, it don't
No,
get
Got
the
rock and roll history.
the
right.
mid still huge. Like anywhere from Cleveland to Columbus to Cincinnati, Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago. Like it's that Midwest is a market that we really need to hit because heavy music, rock music is still very. Like I watch tours and a lot of bands that play our area that may play like a 500 to 1,000 seat to 1,500 seat maybe play the 2,500 theaters there. So like there's definitely all in the Midwest for our kind of music. So we definitely need to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the lineup for Sonic Temple or for Incarceration?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is insane. And I mean, Rock on the Range, which is now Sonic Temple, was here for years, and they play the old Crew Stadium, and I want to say that's 40,000 people, and they sell it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those that's a Danny Whitmer one, right? Yeah.
yep. But
Yeah.
see, the thing
That's
is every year, man, he holds this thing for like a lot of spots for bands. So you submitted your music, you never know. I mean,
right.
I actually he just now took over Incarceration. It was through somebody else, which is the old Mansfield Reformatory. And a band from here, I was like, dude, they're doing this Battle of the Bands for it. You should try it out. And they actually won. And then freaking COVID hit.
Oh
Mm.
God.
To play. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I was like, "So what happened?" He's like, "Well, they said, when everything comes back, they'll, and they ended up getting to play. But it was just they
Years
was
later.
so excited, and then
Oh,
just
the whole industry, COVID killed it.
oh, I know. I talked to lots of guys during that, and they're like, just what do I do? You know, but
Well,
but
you go from being like super busy and riding that wave to immediate crash.
yeah, and that's the thing that a lot of them were like, man, we had so much momentum, and then just but I mean, and I think that what I've said to a lot of artists and a lot of artists have agreed with me on is that COVID kind of it really slowed things down so that you guys as artists could take more time to write music. You could take, but if you look at the music post COVID, I feel like it's much more quality music than what it was before,
Yeah.
because people were able to take time and do their thing.
Sure.
The downside of it is though is everybody, and it's still happening in the touring industry, is everybody is going out at the same time because they didn't for so long, so they have to make up that money gap. So like, I mean, it's crazy. You see a different new big tour announced every week for the same time frame. Even just as a fan to try to go see all these shows, one,
Right.
it's expensive, and two, they're just coming one after the other. And then that's the same thing. The competition of good new music being released right now is insane. So like, yeah, I agree. While I think we got a lot of good songs out of COVID once we settled in and realized, okay, this is going to be a longer haul than we originally thought, and let's just settle on writing instead of trying to book shows that keep getting postponed and then eventually canceled.
Right.
We got a lot of good stuff out of it, but I still wouldn't want to do it again.
No. There's always, but I mean, it's like the saying, there's always good with the bad, you
Yeah.
know. And I mean, there was at least, I mean, outside of the thousands or whatever people that died from it, and the industries that it killed. I mean, there's venues that didn't survive. There's bars that didn't survive. There's, I mean, bands that didn't survive it. So I mean, it screwed up a lot of shit. But I mean, the ones that made it through, like I said, I feel like the quality of music that we're hearing now post COVID is better than pre COVID.
I can agree with that.
So
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head. It isn't rushed, like you always feel so pressured to get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out, new album every year or whatever. Sometimes I think people's contracts dictate that. And, so have that free time, you know. But I agree with Joe. I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah, neither do I. But I mean, it's like, I mean, like again with the time, it's I feel like it was just people were able to sit back and reflect. I mean, they're watching this big pandemic happen, and it's like, what the fuck? What's going to happen? Are we all going to die? What's the deal? And it was just like you just took your time with everything. I mean, if it was going, having dinner with your woman or whatever in the evening, just sitting down and talking and eating, and not just throwing throwing the food down and like getting up and going to do something else. I mean, it did offer a lot of time, but it did screw shit up, man, big time. And I feel especially horrible for bands because your livelihood, well, a lot of livelihoods were put on hold, and they're like, what are we going to do? I mean, there's guys that had to go out and get normal jobs to support their family, and then there's guys that just said, hey, we're gonna do online videos, or we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And I mean, we all kicked into survival mode, dude.
Yeah, we had to do.
The
Yeah.
online stuff and the streaming was a little weird the first couple times too,
Yes.
like because you're playing these shows, right? To just the camera. And then I mean, I can't speak for Albert, but I just feel like that had to be awkward to be like, hey, thanks. And up next, when there's nobody in front of you, in the physical realm.
Yeah, but I mean, it got hella views and hits. And that's what, that's another thing that's just is big for you. I mean, people that were normally not into the music or not seeing the music, now they're seeing it because they've got nothing else to do, and they're like, well, what the hell is this? And you got a rock band playing live in front of a camera. So granted, you can't give the same energy and everything like that as what you would on stage, but you're still being heard.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
There was some. I watched Dropkick Murphys play in Fenway Park. I don't think that would have happened without COVID, and that was pretty damn cool.
Oh wow. Yeah, them guys been around for some time. So Ignite the Sky just came out. When can we expect another single?
I would say probably early summer is probably the next single drop. The label we have a 5-song EP in the can, but in today's market, it's tough to know when to release it, because when you release a whole album or a whole EP, those 5 songs are gone then, and
Right.
So the plan may now be to maybe release 2-3 singles ahead of the EP, and then the whole EP later in the year. But I don't want to give away too much, but the second single will be a fun summer song. We got a think a good idea for a fun video, and I think it could take us to another level after the last 2 Ignite the Sky just hit the top 50 on the secondary market chart this week.
Oh yeah.
And our last Viva La Revolution, which was a cover of the Addicts song that we did, that I think peaked at number 38. So we've gotten a little bit of secondary market chart success with our last 2, and so we're hoping this summer one will be a fun jam. So that's the plan right now, probably summer. But we're gonna ride Ignite the Sky for another couple months and get out and do some live shows with it. So
hell yeah. All right, fellas. Well, we are just about out of time. It says I've got less than a minute left. So I'll look forward to this single coming this summer, and Joe Defiant and Mr. Cochran. Fuck, I'm like
FC.
It's okay.
PMFC, PMFC, Paul motherfucking Cochran. You guys have a good evening, man, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for it.
All right, later. Bye.